What a wonderful world. Hi guys, and welcome back to Real. Today I am talking about a very interesting topic because I feel like it's so in depth that we never really think about it, and yet it's something that we deal with every single day. So I'm going to get right into it, but I also want to give you some background about what's been happening. And I also want to talk about the format of my show or my podcast. I have guests on here and there. I feel like I don't have them every week, but I try to have them a good amount because I feel like it helps with expanding the podcast, getting different views and different people from different walks of life on here. But I also love to do these solo episodes, and I try to just pack them in with as much knowledge as I can give you in one period of time, in 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever. So what you can expect to see going forward, for guest episodes, those will usually be around an hour. For solo episodes, those are really the ones where I'm diving into very specific topics and offering my experiences and then my solutions and tangible pieces of advice that you can take with you. So first of all, while we're on here, I would love if you really like this podcast to just share it with a friend or family member that you feel like would really take something from this. I'm super passionate, as you guys know, about mental health. And I feel like chipping away at some of these topics actually gives me an opportunity to help people that might be struggling with something that I've struggled with before. And I talk about things that I struggle with in the present too. I literally am about to touch on a topic that I am struggling with this week and learning from this week. And so these are my own notes that I've been taking from myself and my own personal growth. And I'm just sharing them right with you guys. So when I do solo episodes, I'm going to be doing them for 30 minutes. Again, gives you that chunk of knowledge that you can listen to whether you're walking to work or cleaning. I want you to be able to do different tasks while you're listening and really just helping you get the most out of your life. So, okay, I'm going to give you some backstory of what today's episode is about. I basically got in a fight with someone this week. And I found myself basically being your experience is this is crazy. The thing that you're saying to me about how you feel is crazy. That's how I felt on the inside. I was you're being paranoid. This is genuinely crazy. And I've gone through these emotions before, but because I was with the person, in the present, I felt I immediately reacted and I had no time to think. I just reacted. I got extremely defensive. I let my ego get the best of me, thinking I'm better than that. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't make a person feel that way. I wouldn't do that. And I think we've all had that experience of feeling someone is attacking us. You're attacking my character. And I would never do something like that. And why are you attacking my character? Now, going through all of these motions, at the end of the day, that person just wanted to feel seen and heard. That's it. And so by me taking in that information, barely even letting the other person talk and then just firing back at them, which I consider myself to be very self-aware. I like to listen. I'm empathetic, but it just shows that even the most empathetic people that are pretty good with others and good with giving advice, still have weak moments and still have things that they can improve upon and still forget those core values and things you should do. And we're also not taught that in school. Imagine if we were taught in school how to validate people's emotions and feelings. The world would be so much of a better place. But we're not taught these really important everyday skills, which is crazy. Again, I can't believe because we're taught how to do something squared in math, doing random quadrants of a fucking whatever. But we're not taught how to deal with people, which is something that no matter what walk of life you're in, most walks of life, you have to deal with people, and with emotions. And especially in our day and age with so many people suffering mentally, I feel this is such an important time that we need to understand how to hear people out and not make people feel guilty for feeling the way that they're feeling and be able to not even offer solutions, but just offer support and offer space. Like just holding space for a person is so important. So I'm sitting there and I'm just like not even letting this person explain their feelings because I'm just coming back so quickly, firing back, being like, I can't believe you feel this way. This is crazy. This is actually crazy. Like, this is nuts. Like, you have no idea, guys. Like, I was on one because I was like, I cannot believe that someone is literally going to accuse me of this or accuse me of like acting a certain way or thinking a certain way. In reality, it had nothing to do with me. It had to do with the other person, that person's emotions, that person's feelings. And I realized looking back after doing research and like really diving into how emotions work and how these kind of like interactions work, I was just invalidating that person's experience. Like I was simply just invalidating. And when you invalidate a person's experience, that leads to a lot of shame and a lot of guilt, and it leads to low self-esteem. And that was when I realized like my truth might be different than another person's truth. And I'll say that again, like your truth is not going to be the same as someone else's truth. What's valid to you might not be valid to the person you're talking to. But individually, both of your feelings are valid because it's your truth and it's their truth. You don't have to agree with the other person's truth. What is valid to them might not have to be valid to you. However, you can still have the ability to validate someone else's experiences and feelings. Crazy. Who would have thought? It's something we often forget. You don't need to exactly know what that person is experiencing, but you can try to put yourself in someone else's shoes and try to sympathize and even try to empathize with them. Try to picture yourself in that scenario, how you might feel if you were in their shoes. So going through this in the end, I felt this sense of like, okay, I did all the wrong things. And like, I want to learn from this and grow from this. And like, what are like the tangible steps that I can take to be able to make someone else feel seen and validated? Because I think that is the best solution that we can offer. So I want to talk about some things that like you shouldn't do and like what I did, you shouldn't do, and what some things are that I can do moving forward and some things that you can do moving forward if you're ever in a fight with a friend or even like as simple as someone that you know coming to you for advice or coming to talk to you about something. This totally applies to this. Like, here are the steps you can take to actually like help someone and make them feel seen and make them feel comforted in a situation where they're not feeling comfortable or good and they're feeling like they're in a crisis. So these are like, I wrote down a bunch of notes. So if you see me referring to my phone on the audio version, that is why. I also want to talk about the concept of toxic positivity. I was reading this like essay and it was talking about how toxic positivity really coincides with invalidating people's experiences and how if you have the quote unquote like good vibes only mindset, that can be super invalidating to people. So if you're just saying like, don't worry, like it's going to be fine. Like it's going to be fine. Like that's toxic positivity. It's like you're only trying to see the good in the situation, but in turn, you're suppressing your emotions and the other person's emotions. Meaning like you don't want to deal with that person's emotions. So you're just like, it's going to be fine. It's fine. Yeah, that's not like, you don't have to worry about that. Like it's not that deep. It's not that deep. That is invalidating a person's experience and emotions. And that is what you should not do. And that's also toxic positivity because you're like saying like, it's just going to be fine. And like, it'll be fine in a day. It'll get better. Not what someone actually wants to hear. We all have heard that. And I've done that. I've done that plenty of times saying like, it'll get better. That's actually not the way to do it. Or like, when people are in mourning and being like, they're in a better place now. Toxic positivity. No one wants to fucking hear that. No one wants to hear that. So those are just some examples of how like toxic positivity can actually play a role in like making someone feel invalid. And it's like what you kind of don't want to do. And in turn, like you're suppressing someone's emotions, and then they're not going to deal with those emotions or feel better because they're just being buried deeper and deeper inside. Like when we want to make a situation better, you can't just like take it at face value and then cut it off and say like, it's fine. It's going to be fine. You have to like work through those tough emotions, talk about it, ask questions, like really allow that person or yourself to feel those feelings. That is what's going to get you on the other side of a breakdown or an issue or conflict. I'm going to talk about some invalidating statements, like things you shouldn't say. Okay. 1 is like you're overreacting. 2, it's not that big of a deal. Same thing as like, it's not that deep. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Just get over it. Like, let's just get over it already. Let's move on. Like, no, that's just breezing past it. And that's not going to do anything. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be scared of. Like, it'll be fine. Well, that's not going to make a person, like, that person's still going to feel afraid or anxious. Like, you saying that might be true to you. That's not true to them. So you saying there's nothing to be afraid about, like, that's not true to them. They are afraid or they are anxious. You saying like there's nothing to be anxious about. They already are anxious. They're telling you that. So never use that. This is a big one. Like, oh, it could always be worse. I hear a lot of people, and even myself, saying this to myself or saying it to others. Like, I feel like we always kind of, again, breeze past our emotions by saying like, oh, like other people have it worse. Yeah, other people have it worse. That still doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because your feelings and your emotions are still valid. They're still happening. Whatever's happening is still happening to you. So yes, someone on the other side of the world could have it worse, but you're living your life. You can hold space for them and still have your own conflict in that moment. And both are valid separately. So saying someone else has it worse is not going to make you feel better. It might be true. It's true. It's always true. Someone always has it worse. But it doesn't really help. It doesn't offer a solution. And it only makes you feel guilty because then you feel like, oh, well, someone has it worse. I shouldn't be complaining. And there goes the push down again and that creation of guilt. The other one is just, let's not think about it. Let's just move on. Like, okay, we talked about it. Let's just move on now. Like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Again, that last feeling of like, we're not going to talk about this. We're going to suppress it. Anything that represents that like suppression of emotion is not going to be a valid solution to make you feel better. Now let's talk about some validating statements. And then we're going to go through kind of like, what are the steps you can take when someone comes to you? So one validating statement, I can see how you feel this way. I understand where you're coming from. Saying like, I agree, like that's really hard, or like that must be really difficult, or oh, like that sucks. I'm so sorry. Those are all validating. Saying like, I would feel the same way if I were you. I totally get it. Like I would feel the same exact way. You're not alone. You're not alone in this. Any of those feelings also have to come from a place of you being present and actually really working hard to understand what that person is saying. So what you can do when someone is asking for advice is ask questions. Like that's another way to validate. Like, can you like further explain to me what else is bothering you? Or how does that make you feel? Or what can I do to help you feel better or move past this? Or what can I do to support you? Those are all validating as well.
I'm sure everyone's heard the term like being an active listener. I think this is like one of those most important moments to actually be an active listener in, because you want that person to feel heard and feel like you actually understand what they're saying. And if you don't, that is the time to like ask questions and put yourself in their shoes and really try to understand how they're feeling, even if you haven't had the same exact experience yourself. So now I want to go through kind of the steps. Obviously, step 1 is having that person like explain their feelings to you. The next step is number 1, listening and being silent, but being an active listener, nodding, agreeing, and really taking in the information. Next, that's your time to validate / ask questions. And also, before you validate, you want to take that moment that they're talking to you to like put yourself in their shoes. That's when you use that time to like picture how they might be feeling in that moment and relate it back to personal experiences you've had yourself. It doesn't mean, and I've made this mistake before, my ADH girlies will understand this, that feeling of someone telling you something and you needing to relate that to an experience you've had. And I do that sometimes. And to be honest, I haven't done enough research and heard enough opinions to know if this is totally right or wrong. I also think there's a time and a place. But I think the best thing you can do if you're unsure is to, in your mind, think about a time that you might have been feeling that way or something similar that has happened to you so that you can like at least mentally relate to what they're feeling and feel what some of those actual emotions might feel like. That's when you use those validating statements and ask questions. If you don't even have a validating statement, you can literally say, I want to offer you support. What can I do to help? And I think that's like sometimes the best thing anyone can do. And even just listening and hearing a person and saying you're valid to feel this way. And like I understand why you would be feeling this way. Or just this sucks. Sometimes people don't know what to say. And I don't know, that's not my favorite thing to say, but like just being like, you know what? It sucks. Like I get it. And this is just not the best situation. Not a good situation. I think just like validating that person is feeling badly. Altogether, I feel like those are the ways that we can let a person be heard. My mistake was not giving those validating statements, not like maybe, I think the biggest thing for me was like, how would I feel if I was in the other person's shoes? And I'm thinking about it and I'm like, I'd be pissed or I'd be upset or this or that. And so that's like the best way you can test kind of like if that person, like how you can make yourself feel like that person's feelings are valid too. You'd be like, oh shit, like I would feel the same exact way. So all to say that this is something that's happened to everyone, but I just feel like we often don't have those hard skills, like those hard steps to like take to be like, okay, this is how I can offer a solution. This is how I can help. Like we've all had a friend going through a crisis, and I feel like a lot of people don't know how to handle it or don't know how to say the right things. And this is just a way to do that. And I think also another benefit to this is just making a person feel important. I think it's really easy to dismiss a person's feelings, but with that usually comes like that person not feeling important because you're saying like whatever you're feeling, nobody relates, no one cares, no one relates, and that makes a person feel really shitty. And that's where that low self-esteem comes in. And so I think like taking this to the outside world, when we go onto social media and we see someone struggling with something, people are so quick to be like, oh my God, you're like the most toxic thing I think on social media, and there's a lot of it, is when I see people commenting on other people's pages being like, oh my God, come on. You're this, you're rich, you're privileged, you whatever. You come from a good family, like whatever it may be. That's not helping literally anyone. Someone with low self-esteem says something like that, honestly. Like, or someone that really doesn't know how to handle emotions says something like that. And so I think that's a way that we can be more human and like be a better like society as a whole, is just being able to, no matter what, put yourself in someone else's shoes. Make a person feel valid for how they're feeling. Or don't say anything at all and let their friends do it if you don't have something nice to say. Because we all know that happens as well. I also want to get a little bit more into this concept of toxic positivity, because I feel like a lot of people actually like don't know what it is, or don't know how to talk about it, or don't know how to spot it. But I'm going to read like a definition that I found online from the Anxiety and Depression Association of America. I know we're really getting down and dirty in this episode. Toxic positivity occurs when encouraging statements are expected to minimize or eliminate painful emotions, creating pressure to be unrealistically optimistic without considering the circumstances of the situation. So a lot of people think of this like good vibes only, or like just don't worry, be happy. Like those are all great things in theory. However, they're so unrealistic especially, again, living in our day and age. I mean, like, I feel like that was such a 70s kind of way of thinking. And then when you add in the pressures of social media, you add in the pressures of college being harder to get into than it ever has been, housing costs being more expensive than they've ever been, people in debt, the economy, jobs. There are so many things that young people and all people are struggling with now. And to tell someone, don't worry, just be happy, someone else has it worse. Yes, someone always has it worse, but that is not helping a country and a group of people that are more depressed statistically than we ever have been. Our generation, statistically, we are depressed and we are anxious. And this idea that we can just chalk it up and be positive and not worry because someone else on the other side of the world has it worse, not helping. The thing that we need to do for each other and ourselves is feel validated and feel understood. And so I think that's why this idea of toxic positivity really needs to be discussed more. I was in this situation not that long ago where I saw a relationship of two people that I know. And the woman in the relationship, the man was clearly struggling. And he was going through his own mental health issues. And it was very clear to anyone. But because masculinity is so fragile, and also because it's so hard for men to feel like they can express their feelings, the woman in the relationship constantly was like, quote unquote, icked out by that man not being tough. Whether it was in front of him or behind his back, the woman was constantly telling the man or talking about the man, saying that he needed to toughen up. He needed to stop whining. He's being a baby. He's being a little bitch. We hear this so often. This is why male suicide rates are so much higher than women's, because that is how men are treated when they talk about their feelings and emotions. This is what needs to change. This is one thing that is so like tangible. You can literally take this into a relationship that you have. Any of my relationship girlies, something that you can do today, even if you have a guy friend, ask them how they're doing and validate their feelings. Men so often struggle with their mental health and they don't know how to handle it. They don't know what to do, who to turn to, or how to handle it. And it ends up bottling up and oftentimes even comes out in abuse or self-harm, or drinking or drugs. Like, it comes out in these other ways because that's the invalidation part or the toxic positivity part. Them being like, I'm fine. Other people have it worse. It'll be fine. No, those emotions still exist. Every time you say that, they're just being buried and buried and buried. And I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm just trying to apply it to a situation that I really do see often, especially in men. Telling someone that they can talk about things with you, opening up the floor to just say, is there anything that's bothering you or anything you want to talk about to a man that's in your life? Even if they don't open up on the first through fifth time you ask, they might open up on the 10th. I think like because men are so conditioned, they're usually not going to open up on the first try. But it's constantly offering the floor for them to be able to speak about something that they want to speak about. Constantly, like, you can't convince a man to go to therapy. You just can't always do it. Some of them do it. A lot of the times it is, trust me, I've tried with certain men in my life. It's really hard to convince guys to go to therapy. So an alternative that I can just provide if they're not willing to do that yet, and I say yet because I feel like there's always room for improvement, is just giving them the floor to like say something and you to validate that. And even if it's just something really small that they're downplaying, them saying something, you being like, I really understand what you're going through and I'm so sorry and I'm here for you. And is there anything else that I can do to help? And it always reminds me back to this couple that I know, that the man really doesn't have the space to feel valid, or to have emotions. And especially, I would say, in the older generation too, so many men, like I think of my dad, my grandpa, so many men, like really, the shit's so suppressed. Like it is so hard to get them to speak up about things. But by just opening the floor, even if it's like your dad or your grandpa or an uncle or whatever, like it really might make a difference. You just never know. So that's why I wanted to just add this little section about toxic positivity and about men and masculinity, because it's something that is glazed over way too much. And the last thing I want to touch on when it comes to toxic positivity is the concept of body positivity, something that I talk about all the time, and I used to talk about all the time. Nowadays, I don't really talk about body positivity. I talk about body neutrality. I talk about how to accept yourself, self-acceptance. But if you look back at my old videos and search my old videos, you might find videos of me like pulling down my shirt and showing my fat on my stomach and like praising it. And to be honest, it did help me a little bit in the moment, because people would like, I guess, praise me for it, or it would make someone else feel better. So it made me feel a little bit better about having that. But at the end of the day, did I still want to get rid of it? Yeah, I still wanted to get rid of it. So by me just being like, you're beautiful, you got this, like your body's amazing. Well, I didn't feel that way. And I don't know if I will ever feel that way. So that's not where my healing came in. My healing actually came in when I stopped all that toxic positivity when it came to my body. It even applies to my anxiety too. So many different things. It could apply to everything in life. When I stopped the toxic positivity and started with the self-acceptance is when I saw a really big change, because it just took all of that pressure off of me needing to feel amazing about myself all the time. And again, it's like this idea that the positivity of it all didn't solve any of my problems. It just pushed down my problems and created a facade. It totally created a facade. Like I deep down was still feeling all of those bad emotions about myself, but now I just kept layering on videos of me like looking positive about myself, wearing clothes that like didn't fit properly or whatever, or like clothes that I wouldn't typically feel comfortable in, because again, it was a facade. I think so many of us try to stand out, and that's okay. Like there's such thing as individuality, but I think some of it actually comes from us pushing it down and not wanting to deal with what we're actually feeling. So with body positivity, I think the best thing that helped me actually work through my emotions was being like, oh, I actually really feel like shit about myself today. Instead of, I love myself, I don't hate myself, stop hating yourself, stop hating yourself. I still hated myself. So instead of that, because that's a burial tactic, instead of that, I would be like, let me just sit in these negative emotions that I'm feeling about myself right now. Like, damn, I fucking hate my body today. I feel like shit. I feel worthless. I feel angry. I feel angry at myself. I didn't eat healthy enough. I didn't work out enough. I just feel upset right now. I just let all those things come to the surface that were all bottled up. I let all those things come to the surface. That helped solve a lot of my binging issues. Nothing is solved, nothing is perfect, but it helped me heal from a lot of my binging issues. It helped me heal from a lot of my body image issues. I felt like the more I pushed down all those emotions, I wouldn't want to deal with going to the gym or eating healthy. Like it would make me kind of do the opposite. And it gave me a new feeling of self-worth. Like I can't explain it, it just did. So if you're struggling with body image, this concept of toxic positivity really does go hand in hand with your body image. And I really challenge you this week, if that is one of the things that you're struggling with or dealing with right now, to instead of being like, I'm going to be more positive, I'm going to love myself, sit down for literally 5 minutes set a timer, open a journal, or just sit with yourself and think about all of those maybe negative emotions that you've been avoiding. Write them down if you don't feel comfortable just sitting with them. Like, what bad feelings are you feeling about yourself right now? Your body, whatever it is. That just brought them to the surface. Now you can actually look at them and be like, I'm either going to set these free, I'm going to work on them, but at least I know that they're there because I didn't bury them and put on a facade to make everything seem like it's perfect, when in reality, it's not for anyone. And I also challenge you to realize that some of the times when you're being really like positive about your body or about your job or about other things, like, yes, there are perks to it in the moment, but if you're never dealing with the emotions, you're literally just gaslighting yourself. So it's definitely possible to gaslight yourself, for sure. And I've done it many times. Even think about like an injury that's hurting and you just like, you keep putting off going to the doctor and you keep just like, you keep working out on the same ankle that you hurt. And you're just like, I'm just going to pretend that I'm not in pain. I'm just going to pretend. If you had just taken a few weeks off, gone to the doctor and put your foot up and let it heal and done the proper work, you could be back in the gym sooner than later and actually have all of the rest of your life to have a long and healthy and active lifestyle. Just because when you first got injured, you dealt with that right in the moment that it happened. Think about that and now apply it to your mental health. If you have a feeling or a thought, if you bury it down and just say, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, it's going to come up later and it's going to be even worse. It's always better to just deal with it in the moment. I know it's hard. I know you don't want to, but I promise doing the hard thing is always going to be more worth it. I promise. And it's a muscle. So the more you practice saying the hard things and doing the hard things and dealing with things that you don't want to deal with, it's going to be easier in the future when you have other emotions or things that you're dealing with. It's going to be even easier to just talk it through or tell a friend or, just be able to speak about it and deal with it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I know there was a few different things we covered. It was very in depth, but no matter what you're dealing with, I feel like these are some really easy ways and tangible ways, again, like I said, that you can practice a healthier mindset, whether it's with your body image or with a fight with a friend or with the way that you talk to yourself. I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed this solo episode. If you haven't already, be sure to give this a 5-star rating and review. It helps so much, more than you could ever imagine. And I want to keep the podcast going. So please, if you can, send this to a friend, give it a 5-star rating and review. And I'm going to be doing a giveaway soon. So be sure to follow me on TikTok at Real with Carly Weinstein and on Instagram at Real with CW. And I love you, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
What a wonderful world.